Hole in a Box by C.S.R.
Chapter 7. To Give Chase. 2 more days passed, and Marla hadn't seen Jarvis in a week. She was growing with worry, because even Darlena hadn't popped up at all. She began to think that she was deserted, but then she remembered what Darlena had said about the portal. It could be possible that it was closed. As soon as Marla got done with art times, she raced back to her room to see if the box was normal or had the hole. But she saw something very unexpected when she entered her room. Standing by the closet were 2 men, smarag men. Something about them gave Marla bad vibes. They seemed dangerous. The first one looked close to being human with a set of messy raven hair on his head that almost looked like feathers, with one black horn popping out of the middle of his head and facing the wall behind him. He had orange-red marks on his cheeks and forehead, contrasting with his slightly pale skin. On the back of his hands were feathers, like that of his hair, sprouting from his wrist. He wore black clothes consisting of an unzipped zip-up hoodie, t-shirt, and baggy pants with a chain or 2 on them. The other man was hunched with a yellow-brown complexion. He wore a worn-out, brown hooded cloak that covered most of his body, but the parts that could be seen, such as his face and wrists, had orange-brown spikes protruding out of them, 2 big ones on his cheeks and tiny ones on top of his head and arms. The man had big, yellow-green eyes that looked hungry and like they were ready for a hunt. The first man was stretching out his neck and arms as if he was getting ready to limber up or had just come out of a cramped space. He noticed Marla and began to speak. He grinned.
There you are.
He had a voice that sounded as sweet as honey, but held a very cold undertone. He had peering purple eyes that seemed to hold no regard for life, and like he'd be the kind of person to betray you in a heartbeat. Marla responded.
Who are you 2?
I'm Fathalor. My quiet acquaintance over here is Malsum. You're coming with us.
Why should I?
Because if you don't,
Fathalor looked and gestured at Malsum.
my dear coworker will chase you down. He's a hunter.
Is that the kind of smarag he is?
Yep.
And what about you?
Oh, you're going to have to figure that one out for yourself.
He closed his eyes and gave a big smile. Nothing about him seemed friendly. Even still, he seemed to have an irresistible presence that would tempt even the purest of minds.
Are you a charmer?
Dear 3, no. I hate how people often compare us to the likes of them. They think there's no difference, but we are nowhere near to being the same creatures. It's insulting.
Malsum seemed to be getting irritated and interjected.
Stop getting off topic, Fathalor.
He had a very rough voice that sounded as rocky and bumpy as his toad-like skin.
Don't be boring.
Fathalor gave a pouty face and then looked back at Marla with an emotionless grin.
Why wouldn't you want to come with us? We know Jarvis. In fact, we work with him. Besides, what do you have here that would make you want to stay?
What?
Marla was taken aback by the comment.
What do you mean by that?
The humans aren't very nice to you, despise you even. So why would you want to stick around? You're an orphan who's been tossed around place to place. No one wants you here.
Stop it!
We want you.
I don't know you. How do I know I can trust either of you? I don't even know if you really are friends of Jarvis or work with him or whatever.
This isn't the way I wanted things to go. It means I'm losing my touch, but oh well. If you're going to resist,
Fathalor turned away from Marla in an elegant way.
then I'll leave things to Malsum, who probably was hoping for this.
What do you mean by that?
Malsum had a huge smile creep onto his face as he got into a sprinting position and said,
Excellent.
Wait!
Fathalor looked back at Marla and feigned surprise as he coyly responded.
Oh, so you will come along quietly. Down, boy.
He gestured at Malsum, who growled back.
No, well, I don't know. What do you want from me?
You ask too many questions. Just come here like a good little girl. Jarvis said you were a good kid, so why are you so resistant? It pisses me off. It's like charm and temptation doesn't work on you, but fear works, and that's always a good tool to have and use.
At this point, Marla knew she couldn't trust either of these men, and no matter what, she shouldn't go with them. There definitely was some sort of ulterior motive than to just whisk her away from this terrible place. so her best plan was to stall them and see if she could trick them into giving her more information.
I like questions.
Oh, is that so?
Fowler started to get very obvious about the fact that he was highly irritated.
Fine. You like questions? Let me ask you a few. Why are you so annoying? Why don't you take this chance of a lifetime? Do you really think you can squeeze information out of me like a tube of toothpaste? Did you really think I was going to go on some angry rant and accidentally tell you things?
Well, why am I not allowed to know?
Before Fowler could respond, Malsom once more interrupted.
Enough of this.
He got back into position.
I'm just going to grab her.
No!
Without thinking, Marla dashed out of the room and down the hallway, her heart beating like a jackhammer. She kept on running and running, going as fast as her little feet could take her. She didn't even look where she was going. She just kept on running until she ran into Miss Keffler and fell on the floor.
Marla,
Miss Keffler started.
why are you running in the hallways?
Marla looked up in surprise and hurriedly said,
I was just
Oh, never mind. You have a visitor.
a visitor?
That was something Marla thought she would never hear from a human. Who in Homins would come for her?
Yes, child. Come along. He's waiting for you.
Marla's heart started racing again as she followed the woman into the art room.